At his triumphant keynote, billionaire Elias Thorne sees the woman he once loved and the son he never knew existed. One glance changes everything. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning sun shone brightly over Harvard University's campus. Flags waved gently in the breeze as excited families filled the seats for the spring commencement ceremony. For Elias Thorne, this day wasn't about receiving a diploma. He'd already done that 5 years ago. Today he was returning as one of the youngest keynote speakers in Harvard's history. At 30 years old, Elias had everything a man could want. His tech company, ValueStream, was worth billions. His face had graced the covers of Forbes and Time magazine. He owned a penthouse in Boston and a beach house in the Hamptons. But there was one thing missing from his perfect life: love. 5 minutes, Mr. Thorne, a student volunteer said, poking her head into the preparation room where Elias was reviewing his notes. Thank you, Elias replied, straightening his crimson tie. He looked in the mirror and barely recognized himself. Gone was the scrappy kid from South Boston who'd fought his way into Harvard on scholarships. In his place stood a polished businessman in a $3,000 suit. His assistant, Marcus, rushed in with a bottle of water. The place is packed. Every news outlet in Boston is here, CNN too. Any sign of my mother? Elias asked, taking a sip. Front row, center. Designer outfit. Can't miss her, Marcus said, checking his tablet. She's already given 3 interviews about how proud she is of her self-made son. Elias frowned. His mother, Margaret Thorne, loved the spotlight his success had brought her. She'd quickly forgotten the years she'd spent telling him he was wasting his time with computers. Now she acted like his biggest supporter. Let's get this over with, Elias said, tucking his speech into his jacket pocket. As he walked toward the stage, memories flooded back. It was on this campus that he'd met Janelle Ward during freshman orientation. She was the smartest person in their computer science class. Beautiful, fierce, and unwilling to let anyone intimidate her, especially the rich kids who dominated Harvard's social scene. They'd fallen in love over late-night study sessions and early morning coffee runs. By junior year, they were inseparable. His family had hated her, not because she was black, they'd never admit that, but because she came from a middle-class family in Chicago and didn't understand their world. But Elias hadn't cared. They'd gotten married in a small ceremony during winter break of senior year. No family, just friends. It was the happiest day of his life, until it wasn't. After graduation, when his startup began to take off, everything changed. Money, pressure, long hours. His mother constantly in his ear about how Janelle was holding him back. And then the fights started. Terrible, hurtful arguments that left them both wounded. The divorce was finalized 5 years ago, almost to the day. And then Janelle vanished from his life completely. No calls, no emails, nothing. As if she'd never existed. Mr. Thorne, we're ready for you, the university president said, pulling Elias from his thoughts. The crowd erupted in applause as Elias took the stage. Camera flashes popped from every direction. He approached the podium, adjusted the microphone, and looked out at the sea of faces. That's when he saw her. Sitting toward the back in a simple black dress was Janelle. His heart stopped. She was still beautiful, her dark skin glowing in the sunlight, her curly hair shorter now, framing her face perfectly. But she wasn't alone. Next to her sat a young boy, maybe 5 years old. He had light brown skin and a mop of sandy brown curls. The child was fidgeting in his seat, looking bored as only a kindergartner at a college graduation could. When the boy turned his head to whisper something to Janelle, Elias felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. The child had his eyes, his dimples, the same crease in his forehead when he frowned. This wasn't just some kid Janelle was babysitting. This was her son. No, their son. The realization hit Elias like a tidal wave. The room started to spin. He gripped the edges of the podium to steady himself. Mr. Thorne, the university president whispered from his seat. Is everything all right? The audience began to murmur. Cameras continued to flash. In the front row, his mother raised an eyebrow, her face a perfect mask of concern for the cameras. Elias looked down at his carefully prepared speech. Words about success, perseverance, and the future. Empty words that suddenly meant nothing. He had a son he never knew existed. A son who was sitting right there, holding Janelle's hand, completely unaware that his father was standing 20 yards away, staring at him like a ghost. Elias began, his voice cracking. He cleared his throat and tried again. I had a speech prepared today. The audience fell silent. I was going to talk about success, about building companies and changing the world. His eyes found Janelle again. She was staring straight at him, her expression unreadable. But sometimes life reminds you that success isn't measured in dollars or magazine covers. In the front row, his mother shifted uncomfortably. 5 years ago, I stood where you're sitting now. I thought I had it all figured out. I was wrong. Elias's voice grew stronger. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I let someone go who was worth more than all my companies combined. Janelle's eyes widened. She whispered something to the boy and began gathering their things. No, she couldn't leave, not again. I've spent 5 years building an empire, Elias continued, abandoning his speech entirely. But what good is an empire if you have no one to share it with? Janelle stood, taking the boy's hand. They began moving toward the exit. Thank you for this honor, Elias said quickly. Graduates, don't make the same mistakes I did. Don't confuse wealth with worth. Don't. But his words trailed off as he watched Janelle disappear through the exit doors, the little boy looking back once with curious eyes. Elias stepped away from the podium, ignoring the confused applause. Mr. Thorne, your speech, the university president said, rising from his chair. I'm sorry, Elias muttered. Family emergency. He rushed off the stage, nearly knocking over a student volunteer in his haste to reach the exit. Behind him, he could hear the crowd buzzing with excitement. What a story this would make. Billionaire Elias Thorne abandoning his keynote address to chase after a mystery woman and child. His mother would be furious. But for once in his life, Elias didn't care what his mother thought. He had to find Janelle. He had to know the truth. Was that little boy his son? Why had she kept him a secret? Why show up now after all these years? Elias burst through the exit doors into the bright sunshine. He scanned the crowded paths, desperate for a glimpse of Janelle's black dress or the boy's curly hair. There, heading toward the parking lot. Janelle was walking quickly, the boy struggling to keep up with her long strides. Janelle! Elias called out. Wait! She froze, her back stiffening. Slowly she turned around, pulling the child closer to her side. Hello, Elias, she said, her voice calm but her eyes wary. Congratulations on your success. Elias stopped a few feet away from them, suddenly at a loss for words. Up close, there was no denying it. The boy was the spitting image of him at that age. Is he... Elias couldn't finish the question. Janelle's jaw tightened. This is Noah, she said, putting a protective hand on the boy's shoulder. Noah, say hello to Mr. Thorne. Hello, Noah said, looking up at Elias with curious eyes. You're the man from the stage. Why did you stop talking? Elias knelt down to the boy's level, his heart pounding so hard he was sure they could hear it. I stopped talking because I saw you and your mum in the audience, and I was surprised. Do you know my mum? Noah asked. Before Elias could answer, Janelle cut in. Mr. Thorne and I went to school together a long time ago. We were friends. Friends. Was that all she would admit to? Elias stood back up, his eyes locked with Janelle's. We need to talk, he said quietly. Not now, she replied, glancing around at the people starting to stream out of the ceremony. Some were already pointing in their direction, phones raised to take pictures. Then when? Elias pressed. Janelle hesitated. We're staying at the Charles Hotel, room 412. Come by tonight at 8. Noah will be asleep. I'll be there, Elias promised. Mom, I'm hungry, Noah complained, tugging at Janelle's dress. We're going, sweetie, she said. Then to Elias. Don't bring anyone with you. No assistants. No lawyers. Her eyes hardened. And definitely not your mother. With that, she turned and led Noah away, leaving Elias standing alone in the middle of the walkway. Mr. Thorne, a reporter rushed up, microphone extended. Why did you cut your speech short? Who was that woman? But Elias ignored him, his mind racing with questions. He had a son, a 5-year-old son he never knew existed. And tonight, he would finally learn why Janelle had kept him a secret all these years. As he watched them disappear into the crowd, one thought kept repeating in his mind. Nothing would ever be the same again. Elias paced the hallway of the Charles Hotel, checking his watch for the 5th time. 7:55 p.m. 5 more minutes until he could knock on room 412. 5 more minutes until he would face Janelle and demand answers about the son he never knew existed. His phone buzzed again. Another text from his mother. She'd been calling non-stop since he walked off stage at the commencement ceremony. The media was having a field day. Tech billionaire abandons speech after mysterious encounter, read one headline. Who was the woman who silenced Elias Thorne? Asked another. Elias turned his phone off and slipped it into his pocket. His mother could wait. For 5 years he'd done everything she wanted. He'd built his company. He'd become the son she could brag about at her country club. But tonight wasn't about her. Tonight was about the truth. At exactly 8 p.m., Elias knocked softly on the door to room 412. Janelle opened it, her face guarded. She'd changed from the black dress into jeans and a simple blue sweater. She looked just as beautiful as she had 5 years ago, but there was a hardness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. "Noah's asleep in the bedroom. We need to keep our voices down." Elias entered the suite. A half-eaten pizza sat on the coffee table next to a coloring book with dinosaurs. A small backpack decorated with rocket ships lay open on the floor, toy cars spilling out. "Is he mine?" Elias asked immediately, his voice low but intense. Janelle crossed her arms. "You gave up the right to ask that question the day you let your mother speak for you." "What are you talking about?" Elias asked, confused. "Don't play dumb, Elias. It doesn't suit you." Janelle sat down on the couch, her back straight, defensive. "Your mother made it very clear what would happen if I didn't disappear from your life. She made the offer, and you let it happen." "What offer?" Elias felt like he was missing huge pieces of a puzzle. "Janelle, I never asked you to disappear. After the divorce, I tried to call you. I emailed. You changed your number, your email, everything. It was like you vanished into thin air." Janelle's eyes narrowed. "Are you seriously telling me you didn't know?" "Know what?" Elias demanded, his frustration mounting. "Your mother came to see me the day after our divorce was finalized," Janelle said, her voice tight with controlled anger. "She offered me a check for $500,000 to walk away and never contact you again. She said it would be better for everyone if your youthful mistake was erased from your life story." Elias felt the blood drain from his face. "I never knew about this. I swear to you." "She said you were on board with the plan," Janelle continued. "That you wanted a clean break to focus on your company. That the marriage had been a distraction you couldn't afford anymore." "And you believed her?" Elias asked, his voice rising slightly before he remembered the sleeping child in the next room. "Why wouldn't I?" Janelle shot back. "You'd already chosen your company over our marriage 100 times. You missed our anniversary to meet with investors. You skipped my father's funeral because you had a product launch. When your mother constantly criticized me, you never stood up for me. Not once." Each accusation hit Elias like a physical blow because he knew they were true. In the final months of their marriage, he'd been consumed by his startup. He'd convinced himself that once the company was stable, he could focus on fixing their relationship. But by then, it had been too late. "I was wrong," Elias admitted quietly. "I made terrible choices. But I never asked you to disappear, and I certainly never told my mother to pay you off." Janelle studied his face, searching for any sign of deception. After a moment, her shoulders slumped slightly. "I believe you," she said finally, "but it doesn't change what happened." "Why did you come back now?" Elias asked. "After 5 years of silence, why show up at the commencement?" Janelle hesitated. "Noah's been asking about his father. I've always told him his daddy was a smart man who lived far away, but recently he's been asking more questions. Why doesn't his father visit? Why don't we visit him? Why doesn't he look like the other dads at his school?" "So you brought him to see me?" Elias asked, hope rising in his chest. "No," Janelle shook her head. "I took a teaching position at MIT. We're moving to Boston next month. I knew eventually we'd run into you, especially in tech circles. I saw the announcement about your speech and thought it might be easier to control our first meeting." "Does he know who I am?" Elias asked, glancing toward the bedroom door. "No. He just thinks you're someone I went to school with," Janelle said. "I need to be careful about how I introduce this. He's sensitive, Elias. He feels things deeply." "Like you," Elias said softly. A ghost of a smile crossed Janelle's face. "Like both of us, actually." A small voice came from the bedroom doorway. "Mom, who are you talking to?" They both turned to see Noah standing there, rubbing his eyes sleepily. He wore blue pajamas covered with stars, and his curly hair was sticking up on one side. "Noah, honey, you should be asleep," Janelle said, rising quickly. "I heard voices," Noah said. His eyes landed on Elias and his face brightened with recognition. "You're the man from the stage today, the one who stopped talking." Elias smiled, his heart racing at the sight of his son. "That's right. My name is Elias." "I'm Noah. I'm 5.5, the boy said proudly. "That's very grown up," Elias replied, fighting back the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. This was his son, his child, a little person who had his eyes, his dimples, his curls. "Why are you in our hotel room?" Noah asked, his head tilted curiously. Mr. Thorne and I needed to talk about some grown-up things, Janelle explained, placing her hands on Noah's shoulders. But it's late now and you need to go back to bed. Can Mr. Thorne read me a story? Noah asked hopefully. You always say I can have another story if I wake up. Janelle hesitated, looking at Elias uncertainly. I'd love to, Elias said quickly, if that's okay with your mom. After a moment, Janelle nodded. One short story, then straight back to sleep, young man. Noah grinned and ran back into the bedroom. Elias followed, his legs feeling unsteady. This would be the first time he'd ever read to his son. The bedroom was small but cozy. Noah climbed into bed and pointed to a book on the nightstand. That one. It's about a prince who has everything except courage. Elias picked up the book, a knot forming in his throat when he recognized it. The Cowardly Prince. It had been his favorite story as a child. It's my favorite, Noah said, settling against his pillows. It was mine too when I was your age, Elias said, sitting carefully on the edge of the bed. Noah's eyes widened. Really? Mom got it for me from the library. She says the prince reminds her of someone she used to know. Elias glanced toward the doorway, where Janelle stood watching them, her expression unreadable. He opened the book and began to read. Once upon a time, there was a prince who had everything money could buy. He had a castle on a hill, servants to do his bidding, and all the toys a boy could want. But there was one thing the prince didn't have: courage. As Elias read, Noah's eyelids grew heavy. By the time the prince in the story found his courage and stood up to the dragon, Noah was fast asleep. Elias gently closed the book and stood up, taking one last look at his sleeping son before walking back into the living room. He fell asleep, Elias said unnecessarily. Janelle nodded. He always does around that part of the story. Janelle, Elias said, his voice breaking slightly. He's my son, isn't he? She held his gaze for a long moment before answering. Yes, Noah is your son. The confirmation, even though he'd already known it in his heart, hit Elias like a physical blow. He sank onto the couch, overwhelmed. Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant? He asked. I found out a week after the divorce was finalized, Janelle explained, sitting across from him. I was going to tell you, but then your mother showed up with her offer. She made it very clear that a child would complicate your life at a crucial time for your company. She said it would be better for everyone if I just disappeared. And you took the money? Elias asked, trying to keep the accusation out of his voice. No, Janelle said firmly. I tore up her check right in front of her. I told her I didn't need her money or yours. That's when she threatened me. Threatened you? How? She said if I tried to come back into your life with a child, she would make sure I lost any custody battle. She said the Thorne family had enough money and connections to destroy me. Janelle's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. I was 23 years old, Elias, pregnant and alone. My parents were gone. I had student loans to pay off. I was terrified. So you ran, Elias said, understanding dawning. I protected my child, Janelle corrected him. I moved to Chicago, stayed with my aunt for a while, got a teaching job at a community college, built a life for us. Elias ran his hands through his hair, trying to process everything. My mother had no right to do that. None. No, she didn't, Janelle agreed. But she did it anyway. And you weren't there to stop her. The accusation hung in the air between them. Elias knew she was right. He had been so consumed with his company that he'd let his mother take over his personal life. He'd never questioned why Janelle disappeared so completely. Part of him had been relieved that he could focus entirely on work without the guilt of neglecting his marriage. I want to be part of his life, Elias said finally. I've already missed 5 years. I don't want to miss any more. It's not that simple, Janelle replied. Noah doesn't know you're his father, and you can't just walk into his life and then walk back out if it gets too hard or too inconvenient. I wouldn't do that, Elias protested. Wouldn't you? Janelle challenged. You did it before. Before Elias could respond, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out and saw his mother's name on the screen. Again. Let me guess, Janelle said, eyeing the phone. Your mother? Elias nodded, silencing the call. She's been trying to reach me since the ceremony. She probably saw me in the audience, Janelle said. She's worried I'll ruin the perfect image she's built for you. As if on cue, there was a sharp knock at the hotel room door. Janelle and Elias exchanged a look of alarm. Are you expecting someone? Elias asked. Janelle shook her head. No one knows we're here except you. The knocking came again, more insistent this time. Janelle stood and moved cautiously to the door, looking through the peephole. She stepped back, her face pale. It's your mother, she whispered. Elias felt a surge of anger. How did she find us? I don't know, but she can't see Noah, Janelle said urgently. Not like this. I'll handle her, Elias promised, moving toward the door. Stay with Noah. Janelle nodded and slipped into the bedroom, closing the door behind her. Elias took a deep breath and opened the hotel room door. His mother stood there, immaculately dressed as always, her face a mask of practiced concern. Elias, darling, thank goodness, Margaret Thorne said, stepping forward as if to enter the room. I've been worried sick. You disappeared from the ceremony. You're not answering your phone. Elias blocked her path. How did you find me, Mother? Margaret blinked, momentarily thrown off by his tone. I had Marcus track your phone. As your mother, I have a right to know where you are, especially when you're behaving so erratically. The press is having a field day with your disappearance. You had my assistant track my phone, Elias repeated, his anger growing. That's crossing a line. Don't be dramatic, darling, Margaret said dismissively. Now, are you going to invite me in so we can discuss how to handle this public relations disaster you've created? No, Elias said firmly. I'm not. Margaret's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose in surprise. Excuse me? You heard me. This is a private meeting and you weren't invited. Margaret's gaze sharpened, looking past him into the hotel suite. Is she here, that ward girl? I saw her at the ceremony. Her name is Janelle Thorne, Elias corrected. She kept my name after the divorce. A divorce you never should have had to go through in the first place, Margaret sniffed. That marriage was a mistake from the beginning. Thank goodness you came to your senses before any permanent damage was done. Elias felt his control slipping. Permanent damage? You mean like a child? Margaret's face paled slightly. What are you talking about? I know what you did, Elias said, his voice low and dangerous. I know about the money you offered Janelle, about the threats you made when she told you she was pregnant. She told you she was pregnant? Margaret's laugh was brittle. And you believed her? Darling, she was obviously lying to try to get more money in the divorce settlement. She wasn't lying, Elias said. I have a son, Mother. A 5-year-old boy named Noah who has my eyes, my dimples, and my curls. A son you kept from me because he didn't fit into your perfect plan for my life. Margaret's carefully composed facade began to crack. I was protecting you. Your company was just taking off. A child would have been a distraction you couldn't afford. That wasn't your decision to make. Elias's voice rose despite his efforts to stay calm. You had no right to interfere in my life like that. I had every right, Margaret insisted. I'm your mother. Everything I've done has been for your own good. From the bedroom came the sound of a child's voice. Mum, why are people shouting? Margaret's eyes widened as she looked toward the bedroom door. Is that my son? Elias confirmed, a fierce protectiveness surging through him. And you need to leave. Now. Elias, be reasonable, Margaret began, but he cut her off. Leave, Mother. We'll talk tomorrow, but right now, you need to go. Something in his tone must have convinced her he was serious. Margaret straightened her shoulders, regaining her composure. Very well, but this conversation isn't over. No, Elias agreed coldly. It isn't. As Margaret turned to leave, the bedroom door opened and Noah peered out, curious. Janelle stood behind him, her hands protectively on his shoulders. Margaret froze, her eyes locked on Noah. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Noah broke the silence. Who are you? He asked Margaret. Before Margaret could answer, Elias stepped between them. She was just leaving, he said firmly. Good night, Mother. Margaret's lips thinned into a tight line, but she said nothing more. With one last look at Noah, she turned and walked away. Elias closed the door and leaned against it, feeling suddenly exhausted. When he looked up, Janelle was watching him with something like respect in her eyes. You stood up to her, she said softly. 5 years too late, Elias replied. Noah tugged at his mother's hand. Was that lady Mr. Thorne's mom? Yes, sweetie, Janelle answered. She came to talk to him, but it's very late now, so she had to go home. She looked mad, Noah observed. Sometimes grown-ups get upset with each other, Janelle explained. But it's nothing for you to worry about. Now back to bed, mister. Can Mr. Thorne come back tomorrow? Noah asked hopefully. He reads the Prince story really good. Janelle looked at Elias, a silent question in her eyes. Elias held his breath, waiting for her answer. We'll see, she said finally. It depends on whether Mr. Thorne has time in his busy schedule. I have time, Elias said quickly. I'll make time. Noah grinned. Cool. Good night, Mr. Thorne. Good night, Noah, Elias replied, his heart aching with love for this child he barely knew. After Janelle tucked Noah back into bed, she returned to the living room. You should go, she said quietly. It's late and we've all had a long day. Janelle, please, Elias began. I want to be part of his life. I want to be his father. And I want what's best for Noah, Janelle replied. He needs stability, Elias, not someone who will drift in and out of his life whenever it's convenient. I'm not that person anymore, Elias insisted. I've changed. Have you? Janelle asked skeptically. Your company is still your priority. Your mother is still controlling your life. What's different now? Elias had no immediate answer. She was right to doubt him. He hadn't proven anything yet. Give me a chance to show you, he finally said. That's all I'm asking for. Janelle was silent for a long moment. Noah wants to go to the Children's Museum tomorrow, she said finally. We'll be there at 10 a.m. If you want to join us, you can. I'll be there, Elias promised. Just you, Janelle warned. No assistants, no photographers, and definitely no mother. Just me, Elias agreed. As he left the hotel room, Elias felt both drained and energized. He had a son, a beautiful, intelligent boy who shared his blood, and tomorrow he would begin the journey of becoming the father that Noah deserved. But first, he had to deal with his mother, because one thing was crystal clear. Margaret Thorne was not going to give up without a fight. The Boston Children's Museum was crowded with families enjoying their Saturday morning. Elias arrived 15 minutes early, nervously checking his watch as he waited near the entrance. He'd barely slept last night, his mind racing with thoughts of Noah and Janelle and the confrontation with his mother. He spotted them walking up the sidewalk. Noah was skipping excitedly, pulling Janelle along by the hand. The boy wore jeans, sneakers, and a blue t-shirt with dinosaurs on it. Janelle was dressed casually in jeans and a simple green sweater. They looked like any normal mother and son out for a day of fun. Except they weren't just any mother and son. They were his family, a family he never knew he had. Mr. Thorne, Noah called out when he spotted Elias. You came. I promised I would, Elias replied, smiling. He nodded at Janelle. Good morning. Morning, she said, her expression guarded but not unfriendly. I wasn't sure you'd make it. I told my assistant to clear my schedule for the day, Elias said. No calls, no meetings, no interruptions. Something like approval flickered in Janelle's eyes. Noah's been excited all morning. The dinosaur exhibit is his favorite. Dinosaurs, huh? Elias grinned at Noah. I loved dinosaurs when I was your age too. Really? Noah's eyes widened. What's your favorite? Triceratops, Elias answered without hesitation. Mine too, Noah exclaimed, bouncing on his toes. They have horns to protect themselves and they're vegetarians, so they're not mean like T-Rex. Elias laughed, delighted by his son's enthusiasm. That's exactly why I like them too. Janelle watched their interaction with a complicated expression. We should head inside, she said. It gets more crowded later in the day. As they entered the museum, Elias noticed people staring and whispering. He was used to being recognized. His face had been on enough magazine covers, but today it made him uncomfortable. He didn't want the attention to spoil their time together. People are looking at you, Noah observed as they approached the ticket counter. I'm in the news sometimes, Elias explained simply. Because of my work. What do you do? Noah asked. I make computers and programs that help people do things faster, Elias said, trying to explain his tech company in terms a 5-year-old could understand. Like games? Noah asked. Some of them are like games, Elias nodded, but mostly they help grown-ups with their work. That sounds boring, Noah declared. Janelle stifled a laugh. Noah, that's not polite. It's okay, Elias smiled. Sometimes it is boring. That's why it's good to take breaks and do fun things, like going to the dinosaur exhibit with you. Noah beamed at that, grabbing Elias's hand without thinking. Come on, it's this way. The simple gesture, his son taking his hand, made Elias's throat tighten with emotion. He glanced at Janelle, who gave him a small nod, permission to go along with Noah's enthusiasm. For the next 2 hours they explored the museum together. Noah raced from exhibit to exhibit, explaining dinosaur facts to Elias with the confident authority only a 5-year-old could muster. Elias listened attentively, asking questions and showing genuine interest in everything Noah shared. He's never normally this comfortable with strangers, Janelle said quietly, as they watched Noah examining a fossil display. He's usually shy at first. Maybe on some level he feels the connection, Elias suggested. Janelle didn't answer, but her expression softened slightly. Mom, I'm hungry, Noah announced, returning to them. Can we get lunch? There's a cafe on the 2nd floor, Janelle said. We can eat there. As they sat at a small table with sandwiches and juice boxes, Noah bombarded Elias with questions about his life, his work, and especially about the big speech he'd been giving yesterday. "Why did you stop talking when you saw us?" Noah asked between bites of his peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Elias glanced at Janelle, unsure how to answer. She gave a slight shake of her head, a warning not to reveal too much. "I was surprised to see your mom," Elias said carefully. "It had been a long time since we'd seen each other, and I forgot what I was supposed to say next." "That happens to me sometimes in school," Noah nodded sagely. "Mrs. Peterson calls on me and my brain goes empty." Elias laughed. "Exactly like that. Were you and Mom good friends?" Noah asked. "When you went to school together?" Again, Elias looked to Janelle for guidance. This time she spoke up. "Mr. Thorne and I were very close friends in college," she said. "But then we both got busy with our jobs and lost touch." "That's sad," Noah said, frowning. "You shouldn't lose your friends." "You're right," Elias agreed softly. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. We let important people slip away because we think other things are more important." Janelle's eyes met his across the table, and for a moment, the years between them seemed to dissolve. There was still a connection there, buried under layers of hurt and betrayal, but not completely gone. The moment was broken by the flash of a camera. Elias turned to see a man with a professional camera quickly walking away. "Was that person taking our picture?" Janelle asked, alarmed. "Paparazzi," Elias muttered. "I'm sorry, I should have been more careful." "What's paparazzi?" Noah asked, stumbling over the word. "People who take pictures of other people without asking," Janelle explained, gathering their trash. "We should go." "No, wait," Elias said. "Please don't let this ruin our day. I know a back exit we can use. There's a small park nearby where Noah can play without any photographers around." Janelle hesitated, clearly torn. "I don't want Noah's picture in the papers," she said. "I understand," Elias assured her. "I'll make sure that doesn't happen. I have a legal team that can handle this." After a moment, Janelle nodded. "All right, but at the first sign of any more cameras, we're going back to the hotel." They made their way out through a service exit Elias knew about from a charity event he'd attended at the museum. The small park he mentioned was just a block away, with a playground that was relatively empty due to the chilly spring weather. Noah ran straight for the swings, leaving Elias and Janelle sitting on a bench nearby. "I'm sorry about the photographer," Elias said. "I should have been prepared for that possibility." "It's not your fault," Janelle sighed. "I just don't want Noah exposed to that world. The media, the scrutiny, the gossip. He deserves a normal childhood." "He does," Elias agreed. "And I want to help provide that for him. But I also want to be part of his life." "How do you propose we do that?" Janelle asked. "You're one of the most recognizable faces in the tech world. Your every move is documented and analyzed." "I can be more private," Elias insisted. "Scale back public appearances, decline interviews. My company is established now. It doesn't need me to be the face of it anymore." Janelle raised an eyebrow. "You'd do that? For Noah?" "Yes," Elias said without hesitation. "For a chance to be his father, I'd do anything." Janelle was quiet for a moment, watching Noah pump his legs on the swing, trying to go higher. "He needs to know who you are," she said finally. "I can't keep letting him think you're just a friend from college. It's not fair to either of you." Hope surged in Elias's chest. "Are you saying you'll tell him I'm his father?" "I'm saying we'll tell him," Janelle corrected. "Together. But not yet. He needs time to get to know you first, to feel comfortable with you." "Whatever you think is best," Elias agreed. "I'll follow your lead on this." Janelle seemed surprised by his easy acquiescence. "That's very different from the Elias I remember. I've had 5 years to grow up," he said with a rueful smile, "to realize what really matters." "Mr. Thorne, Mom, watch how high I can go," Noah called from the swings. They both waved and called out words of encouragement, looking for all the world like any normal family enjoying a day at the park. After another hour of play, Noah began to tire. Janelle checked her watch and announced it was time to head back to the hotel for Noah's afternoon nap. "Can Mr. Thorne come with us?" Noah asked, dragging his feet slightly as they left the park. "He can read me another story." "Not today, sweetie," Janelle said gently. "Mr. Thorne probably has work to do." "Actually," Elias said, "I'm free all day, but I understand if you need some family time." Noah tugged at his mother's sleeve. "Please, Mom, he does the funny voices better than you do." Janelle smiled at that. "Well, I can't argue with that." "All right, but just for one story." Elias's heart soared. Another chance to spend time with his son, to be part of his routine. It was more than he had dared to hope for this morning. As they walked back toward the hotel, Noah between them occasionally holding both their hands to swing himself forward, Elias felt a sense of rightness he hadn't experienced in years. This was what had been missing from his life, not just success or achievement, but connection, family. Back at the hotel, Noah was clearly fighting sleep as Elias read him The Very Hungry Caterpillar, doing different voices for each food the caterpillar ate. By the time the caterpillar turned into a butterfly, Noah was fast asleep. Elias carefully closed the book and tiptoed out of the bedroom, joining Janelle in the living area of the suite. "He's out like a light," Elias said. "You're good with him," Janelle observed. "Natural." "It doesn't feel that way," Elias admitted. "I'm terrified of saying or doing the wrong thing." "That's parenting," Janelle said with a small laugh. "You never stop feeling that way." Before Elias could respond, his phone buzzed. He checked the screen and frowned. "It's Marcus, my assistant. He knows not to bother me today unless it's an emergency." "You should take it," Janelle said. Elias answered the call. "Marcus, what is it?" As he listened, his expression darkened. "When did this happen?" "I see. No, you did the right thing calling me." "Yes, I'll handle it. Thanks." He ended the call and turned to Janelle, his face grim. "We have a problem. That photographer from the museum sold his pictures to the Boston Globe. They're running a story this afternoon, online and in the evening edition." "What kind of story?" Janelle asked, her voice tight with concern. "Tech Billionaire's Secret Family" is the headline, Elias said bitterly. "They're speculating that you're my ex-wife and Noah is my son." "How did they make that connection so quickly?" "Someone must have recognized you from our Harvard days," Elias guessed. "Or maybe they just did some basic research. Our marriage wasn't exactly a secret, though the media never paid much attention to it before I was successful." Janelle sank onto the couch, her face in her hands. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. Noah's going to be all over the news. People will be talking about him, speculating about him." "I'll call my lawyers," Elias said, already dialing. "We can try to stop the story, or at least control the narrative." "It's too late for that," Janelle said, looking up at him with fire in her eyes. "The story is already written. What are you going to do, buy the entire Boston Globe?" Elias paused mid-dial, struck by the idea. "I could, you know. I have the money." "That's not the point," Janelle exploded, then immediately lowered her voice, remembering Noah sleeping in the next room. "You can't just throw money at every problem, Elias. That's what your mother does." The comparison stung, but Elias knew she was right. "What do you want me to do then? I want to protect Noah as much as you do." Before Janelle could answer, there was a sharp knock at the door. They exchanged wary glances. "Are you expecting someone?" Elias asked. "No," Janelle said, moving cautiously toward the door. She looked through the peephole and stepped back, her face hardening. "It's your mother." Again, Elias felt a surge of anger. "Let me handle this." He opened the door to find his mother standing there, perfectly composed in an expensive suit, as if she were heading to a business meeting rather than confronting her son. "We need to talk," Margaret said without preamble. "Privately. Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of Janelle," Elias replied, stepping aside to let his mother enter, but blocking her from moving further into the suite. Margaret's lips thinned with disapproval as she saw Janelle standing there. "Very well. I'll be direct. The Boston Globe is about to run a story about your situation. We need to get ahead of it." "How did you know about the story?" Elias demanded. "I have my sources," Margaret said dismissively. "That's not important. What matters is damage control." "Damage control?" Janelle repeated, her voice dangerously quiet. "Is that what my son is to you? Damage?" Margaret barely glanced at her. "This isn't personal, Ms. Ward. It's business. Elias has a public image to maintain. His company's stock price could be affected by scandal." "Noah is not a scandal," Elias said firmly. "He's my son." "A son you never knew existed until yesterday," Margaret pointed out. "A son whose mother kept him hidden from you for 5 years. That's how the media will spin it, and it won't reflect well on any of you." "Maybe that's because you paid me to disappear," Janelle shot back. "Did you tell Elias that part? How you came to me with a check and threats about how you'd make sure I never saw a penny of child support if I tried to contact him?" Margaret's composure slipped slightly. "I was protecting my son's interests." "You were protecting your own interests," Elias corrected her. "You didn't want the embarrassment of a failed marriage or a grandchild with a black mother. It didn't fit your perfect society image." "That's not true," Margaret protested, but her eyes slid away from his, unable to meet his gaze directly. "Isn't it?" Elias pressed. "Because I remember how you treated Janelle from the moment I brought her home. The snide comments, the backhanded compliments, the way you excluded her from family events. "I was trying to save you from making a mistake," Margaret insisted. "You were too young to get married. You weren't ready for that commitment. That wasn't your decision to make, Elias said, the same words he'd used the night before. And it certainly wasn't your place to drive away the mother of your grandchild. I didn't know she was pregnant when I made that offer, Margaret said defensively. But you knew when you threatened her afterward, Elias countered, when she told you she was carrying my child. Margaret's silence was all the confirmation he needed. How could you do that? Elias asked, his voice breaking slightly. How could you keep my own son from me? I did what I thought was best, Margaret said stiffly. Your company was just taking off. You needed to focus. A child would have been a distraction. A distraction? Elias repeated incredulously. He's my son, not a hobby. From the bedroom came the sound of a door opening. All three adults turned to see Noah standing there, rubbing his eyes sleepily. Why is everyone yelling? He asked, his lower lip trembling slightly. Janelle immediately went to him, kneeling down to his level. I'm sorry we woke you up, sweetie. The grown-ups were having a disagreement, but we're going to use our inside voices now. Noah's eyes fixed on Margaret. You're the lady from last night, the one who was mad. Margaret seemed momentarily at a loss for words, faced with the grandchild she'd never acknowledged. This is Mrs. Thorne, Janelle said carefully. She's Mr. Thorne's mother. She doesn't look happy to see me, Noah observed with a child's blunt honesty. That's not true, Margaret said quickly, her society manners kicking in. She pasted on a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'm very pleased to meet you, Noah. Noah didn't look convinced. He pressed closer to Janelle's side. Mom, can we go home now? I don't like it here anymore. The simple request broke Elias's heart. This was exactly what they'd been trying to avoid. Noah feeling uncomfortable, sensing the tension and conflict swirling around him. Yes, sweetie, we can go back to our apartment, Janelle assured him. Why don't you go pack up your dinosaurs while I talk to Mr. Thorne for a minute? Noah nodded and retreated to the bedroom, casting one last wary glance at Margaret before closing the door. You need to leave, Janelle said to Margaret, her voice cold. Now. For once, Margaret didn't argue. Perhaps even she could see the damage her presence was causing. We still need to discuss how to handle the press, she said to Elias. Call me when you're ready to be reasonable. With that, she turned and left, closing the door behind her with a controlled click. I'm so sorry, Elias said as soon as she was gone. I had no idea she would show up here. Your mother has a talent for bad timing, Janelle said wearily. But she's right about one thing. We need to figure out how to handle this story. Noah starts school on Monday. I don't want him walking into a classroom where all the parents have read about him in the newspaper. Elias thought for a moment. What if we control the narrative? Give an exclusive interview to someone reputable on our terms. Set the record straight. An interview? Janelle looked skeptical. I don't want Noah paraded in front of cameras. Not Noah, Elias clarified. Just us. We explained that we were young and made mistakes, that communication broke down after the divorce, and that we're now focused on doing what's best for our son. Simple, straightforward, no drama. Janelle considered this. Who would do the interview? I know a reporter at the New York Times, Elias said. She's fair, respected, she won't sensationalize it. And you trust her? More than I trust whatever random reporter the Globe assigned to our story, Elias said. At least this way we get to tell our side first. Janelle was silent for a moment, weighing the options. All right, she said finally, but I want final approval on what gets published, and nothing about Noah's school or where we live. No details that could make it easy for people to find us. Agreed, Elias said, relief washing over him. I'll make the call. As he took out his phone, Janelle placed a hand on his arm. Elias, there's something else we need to discuss. The serious tone of her voice made him pause. What is it? I've been offered a fellowship at Oxford, Janelle said. 6 months of research and teaching. It starts next month. Elias felt as if the floor had dropped out from under him. Oxford, as in England, Janelle nodded. It's an incredible opportunity. Before yesterday, I was planning to accept it. Take Noah with me. A fresh start, away from Boston and any chance of running into you or your family. And now? Elias asked, hardly daring to breathe. Now I don't know, Janelle admitted. Noah clearly likes you, and you seem sincere about wanting to be part of his life. But you don't trust that I'll stick around, Elias finished for her. Can you blame me? Janelle asked softly. The last time things got difficult, you chose your company, your mother, your easy path. Who's to say you won't do the same again when being a father gets complicated? I've changed, Elias insisted. Please, Janelle, don't take him away, not when I've just found him. I haven't decided yet, she said. I have until Monday to give them my answer. Let me prove myself to you, Elias pleaded. Give me that much time at least. Before Janelle could respond, Noah came out of the bedroom with his backpack. I'm ready, Mum. Good job, sweetie, Janelle said, forcing a smile. Say goodbye to Mr. Thorne. Bye, Mr. Thorne, Noah said, looking up at Elias. Thanks for coming to the museum with us. It was fun. It was the best day I've had in a long time, Elias said honestly, kneeling down to Noah's level. Can I get a high five? Noah grinned and slapped Elias's outstretched hand. Will I see you again? I hope so, Elias said, glancing up at Janelle. If it's okay with your mom. We'll see, Janelle said, the same non-committal response she'd given at the museum. We have a busy week ahead. I start my new job at MIT and Noah starts his new school. I understand, Elias said, standing up, but I'd like to help if I can, with anything you need. Janelle studied him for a moment, then nodded slightly. I'll call you tomorrow. We'll talk more about the interview then. It wasn't much, but it was something. A promise of continued communication at least. Elias would take it. As he watched them leave, Elias felt a mixture of hope and fear. He had a son, a beautiful, smart, amazing little boy, but he might lose him again before he ever really had a chance to be his father, unless he could convince Janelle that he truly had changed, that he was ready to be the man she needed him to be, the father Noah deserved. And that meant standing up to his mother once and for all. It meant choosing his family over his company, over his reputation, over everything else. It meant fighting for what really mattered. And this time, Elias was ready to fight. The Boston Globe story hit the internet that evening. By Sunday morning, it was everywhere. Tech billionaire discovers secret son at Harvard commencement, screamed the headlines. Photos of Elias, Janelle, and Noah at the museum filled social media. Speculation ran wild about why Janelle had hidden the child, whether Elias had known all along, and what this meant for Value Stream's stock prices. Elias sat in his penthouse, watching the media frenzy unfold on his television. His phone hadn't stopped ringing. Reporters, business associates, board members, all wanting a statement. He'd turned it off after speaking with the New York Times reporter who had agreed to rush an exclusive interview for Monday's edition. What bothered him most were the comments about Janelle. The gossip sites painted her as either a gold digger or a vindictive ex who had denied a father his rights. None of them mentioned his mother's role in separating them. None of them knew the truth. He picked up his laptop and began to type an email to his board of directors. It was time to set some things straight. Meanwhile, across town, Janelle was fielding calls of her own. Her new colleagues at MIT were concerned about the publicity. The Oxford Fellowship Committee wanted reassurance that the personal situation wouldn't interfere with her research. And worst of all, the principal at Noah's new school had called to express concerns about the media attention. "Mom, why are those people outside?" Noah asked, peering through the curtains of their small apartment. Photographers had gathered on the sidewalk, hoping for a glimpse of the secret Thorne heir. "They're just being nosy," Janelle said, pulling him away from the window. "Don't worry about them." "Are they here because of Mr. Thorne?" Noah asked, far more perceptive than Janelle had given him credit for. The people at the museum were taking pictures of him too. Janelle sat down on the couch and patted the spot next to her. "Come here, sweetie. There's something I need to tell you." Noah climbed up beside her, his face serious. "Am I in trouble?" "No, not at all," Janelle assured him. "But I haven't been completely honest with you about something important." "About what?" Janelle took a deep breath. She'd planned to wait, to give Noah more time to get to know Elias before revealing the truth. But circumstances had forced her hand. Better he hear it from her than overhear it from strangers or classmates. "It's about Mr. Thorne," she began. "He's not just someone I knew from college. He's your father, Noah." Noah's eyes widened. "My dad? The one you said lived far away?" "Yes," Janelle nodded. "We were married a long time ago, before you were born. But we had problems and decided not to be married anymore." "Did he know about me?" Noah asked, his young face troubled. "No," Janelle admitted. "I didn't tell him. That was wrong of me, and I'm sorry. But he knows now, and he wants very much to be your dad." Noah was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. "Is that why he looked so surprised when he saw us at the big school?" "Yes," Janelle said, amazed at her son's understanding. "He was very surprised to learn he had such a wonderful son." "Does this mean I have to call him Dad now?" Noah asked. "Only if you want to, and only when you're ready," Janelle assured him. "You can still call him Mr. Thorne for as long as you like." Noah nodded, then asked the question Janelle had been dreading. "Are we going to live with him now?" "No, sweetie," Janelle said firmly. "We have our own home. But Mr. Thorne will be part of our lives now, if that's what you want. I like him, Noah said simply. He does good voices when he reads stories. Janelle smiled, relief washing over her. Leave it to a 5-year-old to reduce a complex situation to what really mattered, story-time voices. Can I see him today? Noah asked hopefully. Before Janelle could answer, her phone rang. It was Elias. I'm sorry to call on a Sunday, he said when she answered, but I wanted to let you know that I've spoken with the New York Times. The interview will run tomorrow morning. What did you tell them? Janelle asked. The truth, Elias replied, that my mother interfered in our lives, that you had good reasons not to tell me about Noah, and that we're now focused on doing what's best for our son. You mentioned your mother's role. Janelle was surprised. Margaret Thorne would be livid. I did, Elias confirmed. I also mentioned it to my board of directors in an email this morning, along with my decision to step back from day-to-day operations at Value Stream. What? Janelle couldn't believe what she was hearing. Elias, you don't have to do that. I'm not giving up the company, Elias clarified, just taking a less public role. My COO will handle the press, the presentations, the travel. I'll focus on product development, which is what I've always loved anyway, and it means I can stay in Boston. Be present for Noah. There was a pause before he added, and for you, if you'll let me. Janelle wasn't sure how to respond to that. Part of her heart still belonged to the young man she'd fallen in love with at Harvard, but that man had let her down when it mattered most. Could she trust this new version of Elias? Noah's asking to see you, she said, instead of addressing his last comment. We just had a talk about who you really are. You told him. Elias sounded both nervous and excited. How did he take it? Better than I expected, Janelle admitted. He's a resilient kid, and he already likes you, which helps. Can I come over? Elias asked eagerly. Janelle glanced out the window at the photographers camped outside. Not here. There are paparazzi everywhere. But we could meet you somewhere. My penthouse, Elias suggested. The building has private security and an underground garage you could drive into without being seen. Or we could meet at a park outside the city. The penthouse, Janelle decided. Less chance of being photographed. I'll text you the address and garage code, Elias said. And Janelle, thank you for giving me this chance. 2 hours later, Janelle and Noah arrived at Elias's building. The security guard nodded respectfully as they drove into the private garage, showing no sign of recognizing them. A private elevator took them directly to the penthouse floor. Elias was waiting when the doors opened. He looked different, more casual in jeans and a simple button-down shirt, his hair slightly tousled as if he'd been running his hands through it nervously. Hi, he said simply, his eyes moving from Janelle to Noah. Thank you for coming. Noah stood half hidden behind Janelle's legs, suddenly shy now that he knew the truth about who Elias was. It's okay, sweetie, Janelle encouraged him. Say hello. Hi, Noah said quietly, peering up at Elias. Elias knelt down to Noah's level. I'm really glad you came to visit me, Noah. I have some dinosaur toys in the living room, if you want to see them. Noah's eyes lit up. Real dinosaur toys? Brand new ones, Elias confirmed. I got them this morning, special for you. That was all it took to break the ice. Noah stepped forward eagerly, his earlier shyness forgotten. Can I see them now? Follow me, Elias said, leading them into a spacious living room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. On the coffee table sat a collection of dinosaur figures, still in their packaging. Wow, Noah exclaimed, rushing forward. A Triceratops and a Stegosaurus. And look, Mom, a Brachiosaurus with a long neck. I see them, Janelle smiled, watching as Elias helped Noah open the packages. The genuine delight on Elias's face as he played with his son made her heart ache. This was what should have been happening for the past 5 years. This was what her silence and his mother's interference had stolen from them both. While Noah was occupied with the dinosaurs, Janelle took a moment to look around the penthouse. It was beautiful but impersonal. Expensive furniture, abstract art, no family photos. It felt like a hotel suite rather than a home. Can I get you something to drink? Elias asked, coming to stand beside her. Coffee? Water? Water is fine, Janelle said. This is quite a place you have. It's just a place, Elias shrugged. I'm hardly ever here, always traveling for work. But that's going to change, Janelle asked, remembering what he'd said about stepping back from day-to-day operations. It already has, Elias confirmed. The board accepted my proposal this morning. Marcus is already working on the press release. By tomorrow afternoon, I'll be officially transitioning to Chief Innovation Officer, focusing on product development. No more travel, no more keynotes, no more magazine covers. Your mother must be thrilled, Janelle said sarcastically. I wouldn't know, Elias replied. I blocked her number after I sent the email to the board mentioning her role in separating us. She's probably tried to call, but... He held up his phone, showing the blocked contact. Janelle raised an eyebrow, impressed despite herself. That's a big step for you. I should have taken it 5 years ago, Elias said regretfully. I let her control too much of my life. That stops now. Their conversation was interrupted by Noah, who came running over with a dinosaur in each hand. Mr. Thorne, you can call me whatever makes you comfortable, Elias assured him gently. Mr. Thorne is just fine for now. Noah looked relieved. Mr. Thorne, can the dinosaurs have a battle on the couch? It's bigger than the coffee table. Absolutely, Elias grinned. In fact, why don't we build them a proper battlefield? I have some cushions and blankets we could use to make mountains and caves. Noah's eyes widened with excitement. Yes, can we, Mom? Go ahead, Janelle smiled. Just be careful not to break anything. For the next hour she watched as Elias and Noah built an elaborate dinosaur world across the living room. Elias was patient and attentive, following Noah's lead and making suggestions only when asked. There was no awkwardness between them, no hesitation. It was as if they'd known each other all their lives. As the afternoon wore on, Noah began to get hungry. Elias ordered pizza, and they ate it around the coffee table. Noah chattering excitedly about his dinosaur battle, while Elias listened attentively to every word. Do you have ice cream? Noah asked hopefully after finishing his pizza. I don't, Elias admitted, but there's a great ice cream shop just down the street. We could walk there if your mom says it's okay. Both Noah and Elias turned to Janelle with identical, hopeful expressions. The similarity between them was striking. The same dimples, the same crease between their eyebrows. What about the photographers? Janelle asked. They're camped out at your apartment, not here, Elias pointed out. And even if we're spotted, so what? We're just a family getting ice cream. A family. The word hung in the air between them. Please, Mom, Noah begged. It's all right, Janelle conceded, but hats and sunglasses for everyone. The ice cream shop was a small old-fashioned parlor with checkerboard floors and red vinyl booths. Noah got chocolate with rainbow sprinkles, Elias chose mint chocolate chip, and Janelle had strawberry. They sat in a booth near the back, Noah between them, looking for all the world like any normal family enjoying a Sunday treat. This is the best day ever, Noah declared, ice cream smeared around his mouth. First dinosaurs, then pizza, then ice cream. Elias laughed. It's been the best day for me too, buddy. Janelle watched them together, her heart full and her mind racing. The Oxford Fellowship deadline was tomorrow. She'd been so certain of her decision just days ago. Take Noah away from Boston, away from any chance of running into Elias or his family. A fresh start. But now, you're thinking about Oxford, aren't you? Elias asked quietly when Noah went to get more napkins. Janelle nodded. How did you know? I saw the letter in your bag yesterday, Elias admitted. I wasn't snooping, I just noticed the Oxford crest. It's an amazing opportunity, Janelle said. 6 months of funded research, teaching at one of the world's top universities. You deserve it, Elias said sincerely. You always were the smartest person I knew. But there's Noah to consider, Janelle sighed. And now you. I would never stand in the way of your career, Elias said firmly. If you want to take the fellowship, we'll make it work. I can fly to England on weekends. Noah and I can video chat every day. You do that? Janelle was surprised. Fly to another country every weekend for 6 months? For a chance to be part of his life? Yes, Elias said without hesitation. For a chance to be part of both your lives. Noah returned with a handful of napkins, breaking the moment. But Janelle couldn't stop thinking about Elias's words as they finished their ice cream and walked back to his building. When they reached the penthouse, Noah was yawning despite his protests that he wasn't tired. It was nearly his bedtime, and they needed to get home. Will I see you tomorrow? Noah asked Elias as they prepared to leave. Elias looked to Janelle for guidance. That's up to your mum. We'll figure something out, Janelle promised. But tomorrow is a school day for you, young man, so we need to get home and get you to bed. Can Mr. Thorne come to my school sometime? Noah asked. For Parents' Day? Jimmy's dad came and talked about being a firefighter. I'd love to, Elias said softly. If that's okay with your mom. Janelle nodded, touched by Noah's easy acceptance of Elias in his life. We'll work it out. As they rode the elevator down to the garage, Noah leaned against Elias's leg, sleepy and content. Elias placed a gentle hand on his son's head, his eyes meeting Janelle's over the top of Noah's curls. The love and gratitude in his gaze made her breath catch. "Thank you for today," Elias said as he walked them to their car. "It meant everything to me." "Noah had a wonderful time," Janelle said. "We both did." After getting Noah buckled into his car seat, Janelle turned to face Elias. "I've made my decision about Oxford." Elias held his breath, bracing himself for her answer. "I'm going to decline the fellowship," Janelle said. "Noah needs stability right now, not a move to another country, and he needs his father." Relief washed over Elias's face. "Are you sure? I meant what I said about making it work either way." "I'm sure," Janelle confirmed. "There will be other fellowships. Right now, this is where we need to be." "Thank you," Elias whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I promise I won't let either of you down." "Don't make promises," Janelle cautioned. "Just show up, be consistent. That's what Noah needs." "And what do you need?" Elias asked, stepping closer. Janelle considered the question. "Time," she said finally. "And honesty. We hurt each other badly, Elias. That doesn't just go away because we share a child." "I understand," Elias nodded. "Friends then, for now?" "Friends," Janelle agreed. "For now." The next morning, the New York Times published their exclusive interview. The headline read, "Tech CEO Elias Thorne steps back for family. Some things matter more than business." The article told their story with sensitivity and honesty, including Margaret Thorne's interference and Janelle's reasons for keeping Noah away. By noon, the story had been picked up by major news outlets nationwide. Value Stream's stock dropped briefly, then rallied as investors responded positively to Elias's new role focusing on innovation. Margaret Thorne called a press conference to announce her resignation from several charity boards, citing personal reasons. She did not mention her son or grandson. At 3 o'clock, Elias arrived at Noah's new school. They had agreed he would pick Noah up on his first day, a public statement about their new family arrangement. As he waited outside the classroom, surrounded by curious parents who pretended not to stare, Elias felt a strange mixture of terror and joy. When Noah emerged and spotted him, his face lit up. "You came," he exclaimed, running forward. "I promised I would," Elias reminded him, kneeling down for a hug. "I told my teacher you're my dad," Noah informed him. "She said she read about you in the newspaper." "Is that okay?" Elias asked, suddenly worried. "That people know I'm your dad?" Noah nodded solemnly. "As long as you keep coming to get me. Jimmy's dad doesn't come anymore since he moved to Florida. He only calls on birthdays." "I'll be here," Elias promised, his heart breaking for what this child feared. "Every day that you want me to be, I'll be here." They walked hand in hand to the car, where Janelle was waiting. She had taken the afternoon off from MIT to be there for Noah's first day. "How was school?" she asked as Noah climbed into the back seat. "Good. I made a friend named Emma, and my teacher has a lizard in the classroom named Fred, and Dad picked me up just like he said he would." Dad. The word hung in the air, new and precious. Elias and Janelle exchanged a look over the top of the car, both of them fighting back tears. "Where to now?" Elias asked as he got into the passenger seat, letting Janelle drive. "Home," Janelle said simply. "We're going home." As they drove through Boston, Noah chattering in the back seat about his day, Elias felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in years. This wasn't the life he had planned. It was messy and complicated and uncertain. But it was real, it was honest, and for the first time in too long it felt right. 1 month later, Elias stood on the tarmac at Logan International Airport, watching a private jet prepare for departure. Inside was his mother, on her way to her house in Palm Beach. She had finally agreed to meet Noah, a tense and awkward lunch during which she had tried and failed to connect with her grandson. "He looks just like you did at that age," she had said to Elias afterward. "He's a true Thorne." "He's his own person," Elias had corrected her, "and I intend to let him stay that way." They had parted with stiff formality, the relationship damaged perhaps beyond repair, but Elias felt no regret as he watched the jet take off. Some ties needed to be loosened for new ones to form. He drove to Janelle's apartment building, their building now, since he had bought the unit next to hers and connected the two, giving them all more space while maintaining separate bedrooms for him and Janelle. It wasn't a conventional arrangement, but it worked for them, for now. Noah was waiting at the window, waving excitedly as Elias parked the car. Janelle stood behind him, her smile warm but still cautious. They were taking things slowly, rebuilding trust day by day. "Dad's home," Noah called out as Elias entered the apartment. "Can we go to the park now?" "You promised." "I did promise," Elias agreed, hanging up his coat. Let me just change my shoes. As he moved toward his room, Janelle touched his arm. Everything okay with your mother? As okay as it's going to be, Elias replied. She's on her way to Florida. Said she'll call it Christmas. Janelle nodded, understanding the complicated mix of relief and sadness he felt. Noah's been waiting all day for the park. He has a new dinosaur fact he wants to tell you. Another one? Elias laughed. What is it this time? How many teeth in a T-Rex? Something about Brachiosaurus eating habits, Janelle smiled. He's been practicing saying herbivore all morning. As they walked to the park, Noah between them, occasionally swinging from their hands, Elias caught Janelle's eye over their son's head. She gave him a small private smile. Not the smile of a woman in love, not yet, but the smile of someone who was beginning to trust again, to hope again. It wasn't reconciliation, not yet, but it was the beginning of something new, something honest, and this time it was on her terms.